if you count it.
Who did you leave out? The district representatives. Right.
The district reps are by 5. So in other words, we must have space for those 5.
Yeah, let us have them,
sure.
all of them. I think they were correct that let us list all of them.
Districts, ne? 5 you born.
I'll check a bit. Legal Pusa, where is the legal Pusa? How many are you? You're 8 in total.
But
Can I
yes,
legally put a 2?
Legal Pusa 2. And then, Tabu Fusanyane?
Harip,
Babu, Scala, Fezil Dabi?
In that 5 business sector, all the sectors.
How many are you?
Two.
2. Tabu Fusanyane? 3 speakers.
Okay.
And then, Mangau Metro? 4 speakers, Mangau Metro. And then, Harip?
Kharib, you have it here. You
Oh,
said it's
Kharib,
two.
oh, Kharib
You
it.
got it as 2.
2.
Give up your
1, 2,
question.
3, 1,
It's
2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Then
by
fine,
5.
let us do the calculation. Probably the
Calculations,
must
yeah.
accommodate all of them.
It's 2, it's 6, it's 10, it's Mona, it's 13. It's 10, it's 16, it's 26. It's 11, it's 13.
It's 30. Then you can
So
reduce.
it's 26 and 26.
It's 52.
It's 2, it's 5, no?
Okay, it's fine. EFF, you are 10. No? Can you reduce your number?
How many speakers are you going to have?
Can you accommodate 5 speakers?
It's 1.
No, don't worry about that. Let's go at the back.
No, we have 4
Okay, it's 5. How many?
5 speakers, no?
5 speakers. Okay, it's 5. It's 5. Delete that 10 and then minus 5. That will be minus 5 there. And then
DA has 5 speakers.
DA,
5 speakers.
you are 6 here. How many can you compromise?
You can make it 5.
You just take one out. You are not compromising, man.
No, banally speakers say 5 here.
No, I guess some of them will be seated there at the back. We just want to. Can we?
Make it 4.
4.
Okay, minus 4.
Okay.
And then who's got
ANC, ne?
ANC will have 5. ANC is 5.
Mhm.
34. But there are others who are seated there at the back. There are others who are seated.
You know,
Can
Can we
at
remove
that-
from side? Can it just be one person who's going to speak? Yeah, side, yes.
It's only 1 minus.
Yeah, I agree. You minus 4.
Okay.
You're
So we are at 39.
39,
We
ne?
are at 39. I think even if we can take, there are chairs there at the back. I think we can accommodate them this way.
Yes, yes.
So, but now can we ensure that you allow those who are going to be speakers to be seated here, and those who will be can sit there at the back?
So if you can help us with the
assist us
process,
on
with the process.
Thank
Sharp.
you very much for the cooperation.
Sure.
Yes, in other words, in here you must have 4. In here you must have 4.
Why is it a copy and trigger?
Kena.
If it's a copy.
This one. Right, re ke check le us motshedisi ka morao ka mane.
Motho wa di-copy ko.
No kena.
O monnye ka mo.
Come on.
Le tse di briefing tse ngata.
Speaker ena chance le le fela program he ke batho ba etse tse ding tsa re ka di dira batla re betsa ka tsona so batla e manage
Yes, speaking first, ne? On the broadcast list.
yeah but you don't speak and leave ne
But are they aware of it?
se lokise re tlweletse
Freedom Farm Plus. Nah, Freedom Farm Plus, I am Pamavito.
yeah I know a re shebe mo a batla go ipone because mo
Oh, are the speakers list? Oh, maybe I understand.
a re shebe mo listing eo bo ba kenya tla e re ba bolele ke bo ma ba tsenya ka tata I hope you are not changing what we resolved it. Okay. Yeah.
But we keep up checking issue of balance.
No, don't worry. You were supposed to raise it when we were here, man.
We keep up I'm not changing anything. And again, if ever the two thing, Ubanale SSL line, we used to number allocate level.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay, sure.
Because
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But you are here. I get that's why I get in like a chance to be blessed.
When I was organized, but someone else I'll take a social media.
If everything's about to come up,
Moment, this is like I'm from
you can't be seated in your
yeah, but that's it. So don't worry. It's couple hour 12:05. But while I will come, give is yeah, it remix. Yeah. I wanna
So are you telling me that you are going to meet Sam?
that
attend us for me. I get to a pouting. I got one of the eye. I took it off. What's that? I said, I can't fit in a
Chair, motho a tlo etsang wena ba.
Nna ke clockile tse ngata ke sa di tseba ke tsela o tsa 36
O ka isikisa. Hey, so we o tlo enka jwang? Ke le thabiso mpintele yona benka. Le thabiso benka mpintele yona then nna ke tlo etsa dikopo. Hola.
Morning. I think it's time now to start. A program was scheduled to start at 8:45. I think we are behind scheduled time. Mastaleni phansi. Honorable members of Youth Parliament, I think there's a caucus there. Should we wait for you to conclude your caucus before we start with, or either take the proceedings forward? No, thanks very much once more. Today is the day of the youth in a form of a parliament. Now, I would ask everybody to stand up. Let's bow our heads in respect of those who departed this world between the previous youth parliament and today. May we rise? Thanks very much. Let's get seated. Honorable members, my name is Jabulani Khadebe, the chair of chairs in the Free State Legislature. I am actually not going to chair the program, but to facilitate. We have agreed that we should be giving sufficient time to young people to debate, not discuss their issues, the challenges facing the country in terms of the economy, the socio-economic issues, and almost everything, the social cohesion part of it. We actually not going to say much other than maybe to take you along the program to say it has been amended. It comprises of 2 sessions, and the intention actually of the first session is some kind of tone setting in terms of content. What is it that you should expect, and how maybe we should approach issues? We're going to give over to the speaker to welcome you, at the same time give us a keynote address, and immediately thereafter we'll be inviting Honorable Makalo Mahale from the STIA. After Honorable Makalo Mahale, we're going to allow you to raise some clarity-seeking questions. Not the debates, only clarity-seeking questions, so that you get more prepared as and when you get the opportunity to debate. The same would happen after the presentation by Honorable Khadija Brown. So in essence, I have introduced some of the dignitaries with us, the Honorable Speaker, Mezanele Sifuba, the Deputy Speaker, Melusi Mapena, the Chief Whip of the legislature, Katemeku is also here, MEC Makalo, the STIA, MEC Brown from Finance, members of Parliament, Honorable Karabo Khakau, Honorable Mandisa Makesini, as well as Honorable Mathomala Majake. Honorable Speaker, I think we should afford you this opportunity to give us address. Welcome to the Youth Parliament 2022. The Speaker will also maybe give clarity and unpack much this year's theme, which is promoting sustainable livelihoods and resilience of young people for a better tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, Mezanel.
Thank you, Honorable Chair of Chairs. Honorable Premier in absentia, she promised me she would come later, but she would make sure that she's here when the youth starts to debate so that she can hear what the youth is saying. Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Mapena, Honorable Chief Whip of the Legislature, Honorable Meko, Honorable Khadebe, the Chair of Chairs, Honorable MEC Brown, the MEC for Finance, Honorable Muhale, the MEC for Distia, Honorable Khachau, I haven't seen her, but I see, Honorable Makesini, Honorable Majake, Honorable Msimanga, Honorable Nanyane. I think those are the honorable members who have confirmed their attendance. Honorable youth delegates who have been invited to this very important platform of youth in the province as a sector, which is the platform or the program that we convene every year on this very important month, a remarkable month to the youth of this country, if not the continent and the world at large, because of what transpired on that very, I don't want to say important, but remarkable day on the 16th of June 1976. Ladies and gentlemen, I greet you this morning. Maybe before I get to what I've prepared to deliver to you today, just to highlight to you, because I think it's very important for our people to understand the mandate of the legislature as provided for in the Constitution. There are three main functions, the tasks, the mandate that is given to the legislature in terms of the Constitution, which is a multi-party constitution democracy that we have in this country. We are tasked with lawmaking. We make laws. The laws that will then be executed by the executive. We are tasked to ensure that there is public participation, not only when we make laws, but ensure that we interact with the people, but in the main, ensure that no law is passed without interacting with the people through public participation. We are tasked with conducting oversight on the executive arm of the state, ourselves being an arm of the state, separate, independent from the executive arm of the state, which is led in the province by the premier of the province. And then we have the judiciary as the other arm of the state. We saw it very important that for us to be able to understand what the people are thinking, what are their views, because it's very important that whenever we call different sectors, whenever we call the public to this platform, though whatever views that they have, they must inform the lawmaking process, the dialogue, the debates that ensue. Somewhere, somehow, they must find expression in the laws that the country make, because ours is a democratic dispensation that intends to incorporate everyone. So that is why we have this platform here today. It is because of our endeavors as the legislature to ensure that we touch all the sectors that are in our society, and very importantly, to ensure that we interact and get your thinking so that we can see how far we can go as the legislature, remember, the legislative sector is not tasked with the provision of service, but we have that responsibility of ensuring that we hold the executive accountable on the provision of services to the people of the Free State. Honorable Chair of Chairs, we are meeting here today on a very sad note. What happened over the weekend in the area of the Eastern Cape, we must not think that one day it can never happen to us. I think to every one of us, it should have triggered something that says, what if it was here? How are we going to deal with it? And what is it that we can do in order to make sure that we don't experience that? Sad enough, children between 13 and 18 years who passed on the way they did. It's something that must worry us moving forward to say, how do we then in the future ensure that such incidents don't take place? It's very important that we must also, as we debate, think about those issues. Honorable members of this youth parliament, we host this youth parliament 2 weeks since the country's national commemoration of June 16 uprising of 1976. These students were already conscious of the many struggles that the people of South Africa were waging domestically and on international front. By rejecting the introduction of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, the youth rejected the Bantu education policy imposed by apartheid government. They also rejected the overall apartheid system, which was based on Baskap dogma. They also rejected a political, social, and economic superstructure of white monopoly or minority domination. Because of the June 16 students' uprising, not only inferior education imposed on black people, but the full brutality of apartheid regime was exposed on that day. We remain indebted to the class of 1976 for their bravery and commitment to a free and a liberated South Africa. Today, the 28th of June, marks a birthday of Chris Martin Tembisilehani, the Chief of Staff of Umkhonto weSizwe, member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, and the General Secretary of the SACP. Had he lived, Mr. Hani would have been 80 years old today. Often, Mr. Hani's legacy is celebrated during the month of April, in which he was assassinated by remorseless Janus Walus and Clive Debbie Lewis. We remember Mr. Hani and celebrate his birthday in recognition of his contribution to South African democracy and freedom. This freedom, which like many freedom fighters, he could not live to enjoy. There is no doubt that whatever good we are doing as government and as people symbolizes his aspirations. From the story of his life and death, we foresaw a quintessence of prosperity, success, commitment to his country's success. We ponder, had he lived, where could we be as a country? For this reason, on this day onwards, it is befitting, therefore, to call on all our youth to aspire to be like Chris. The story of Chris Hani, like many other freedom fighters, is a reminder to the youth and many of our people that freedom came at the highest price. The bullet that hit Hector Peterson was released indiscriminately. However, the youth of 1976 were prepared to lay down their lives for the freedom we are here today enjoying. We are making a reminder to those who are here today not to take the task at hand for granted. You are carrying the hopes and dreams of multitudes of young people on your shoulders. These young people are in communities, at corner markets, music studios, sport academies, financial sector, and many other sectors in our society. To be like Chris is to have the presence of the mind to know the implications of your pronouncements on others. The year 2022 also marks the 67th anniversary of the Freedom Charter since it was adopted in Cape Town in 1955 at the Congress of the People. The adoption of the Freedom Charter was a culmination of many activities, such as emergence of the African Bill of Rights by the African National Congress, the 1943 African Claims Document, in 1954 Women's Charter, amongst others. We are celebrating the ideals of the Freedom Charter and intellectual class of our leaders to work out such a profound charter. Above all, they must love it, defend it, and endeavor to see it being fully implemented, because the Freedom Charter carries everything that, if it could be implemented in full, it could bring true liberation to the people of this country. The full implementation of the Charter indeed will lead us towards the realization of an egalitarian society as we envisaged. For years now, the Free State Legislature has established the Provincial Youth Parliament as a credible platform for a formalized youth dialogue in the province. We have ensured that participation is always restricted to young people, for young people, organized and unorganized. The Youth Parliament has taken different forms over the years, including the presentation style, mock-up reel of sitting of the legislature, and conference style. Every approach presented to us with advantages and challenges, which then required some changes to be made. The Youth Parliament, though, has never failed to impress, with young people being true to their character, to delivering robust and intellectual debates. The consistency of Youth Parliament has also invited great interest from the majority of young people, structures and institutions alike. Unfortunately, we can only accommodate a contained number of participants each time we convene. Each year we convene, the representation has significantly changed. However, the machinery behind the Youth Parliament remains the same, and so the targets set by the youth on all resolutions are thoroughly followed up. The Free State Legislature, through the Office of the Speaker, has established a mechanism in which implementation of resolutions is guaranteed. Provincial government, through the Office of the Premier, report to the legislature on the progress made relating to the outcomes of Youth Parliament. This kind of arrangements has over the years debunked the disparagement that this is just a talk show or a tick box exercise. As the Free State Legislature, we are concerned that government seems to be straining to meet its obligations to address youth development in South Africa. From the Reconstruction and Development Program, Growth, Employment and Redistribution, Accelerated and Shared Growth Initiative for South Africa, and National Development Plan, the living conditions of South Africans floundered. During the fifth administration, South Africa produced a symbolic policy document called the New Growth Path. The NGP, as it is called, set the ambitious target to create 5 million jobs in order to reduce unemployment by 15%, from 25% in 2009 to 15% in 2020. It is 2022 now, and according to Statistics South Africa, unemployment, according to expanded definition, stands at 45.5%, while youth unemployment stands at 63.9%. This situation is concerning. The new growth path identified 6 job drivers in which employment creation would be given priority. About 1 million jobs were to be created across the job drivers, including 1, infrastructure, agricultural value chain, mining value chain, green economy, manufacturing sectors, and tourism. Those were the focus areas to increase, to create employment. We are mentioning these job drivers because it is necessary to remind the youth to refocus their efforts from highly crowded township-based business, such as car washes, salons, quarter shops, and towards these key sectors. With the widening access to education and entry to higher learning institutions, more and more young people have gained special skills. The barometer to determine the impact of this progress we see in education is the extent to which financial support is required by youth in business from enterprise development agencies. Young people must establish a clear target to engaging with enterprise development agencies such as Small Enterprise Development Agency, National Empowerment Fund, Industrial Development Corporation. According to number 6 of the new growth path is the Youth Employment Accord. The accord provides a clear commitment of social partners such as organized labor, business, community constituencies in NEDLEC, youth organizations and government to youth employment and skills. This youth parliament plays a pivotal role in pursuit of the work streams proposed in the Youth Employment Accord. For example, the Youth Parliament Task Team has the responsibility to maintain resolutions register. The register compels the Executive Council to act on those areas of immediate action of youth employment. In response to the call by the youth that government should provide the business support incentives to youth businesses, the Young Producers and Entrepreneurs Strategy was adopted by Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. We are hoping that youth in business will take advantage of such initiatives, whose successes will be monitored by the annual Youth Parliament. Annual Youth Parliament. Many of you come from different backgrounds and different political ideologies. Like I said earlier, ours is a multi-party democracy. When we call youth to this platform, we make sure that the youth from all the parties that are represented in the legislature form part of it. You are, however, called upon to rise above those differences to the benefit of all young people. You are called upon to form partnerships to strengthen our schools. It is considered that a well-functioning basic education will ensure training and foundational learning will prepare the youth for labor market absorption. You need to be more and more concerned about the youth who leave school before completion of their studies. What measures are in place to assist them, and such as the impact of apprenticeships and increased spending on skills development? Already at the Free State Legislature, we use the 30 days turnaround time to pay suppliers as part of our commitment to empowerment. Many other youth-owned led companies serve on our database, and more are called to work with us. The use of local procurement is critical in increasing jobs and building a cohort of excellent entrepreneurs. Government has over the years made the green economy one of its key priorities. Government has over the years made the green economy one of its key priorities to introduce young entrepreneurs into the mainstream economy. This Free State Youth Parliament should consider these approaches as immediate, urgent, and non-negotiable. The approach must be guided through proper government channels, starting from local government, district, and the province. Adam Smith writes in his profound work called Wealth of Nations that the first philosophers were natural philosophers. He argues that wonders of nature call for the curiosity of mankind to inquire into their causes. It then suggests that it is not everything that must be taught. The task of a nation building is one such that must be impressed upon the youth. Similarly, it is a matter of historical record that South African society has been organized with racial lines. This situation is further exacerbated by the legacy of apartheid, which also saw the economic progress manifesting itself exclusively based on race. The youth of 1996 rose against the introduction of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, not only as a single struggle, but the achievement of our country's total independence. The youth of today finds themselves in this second phase of the transition from colonialism to national democratic society with even bigger responsibility. The responsibility includes, but not limited to, advancing the struggle for quality jobs, job security, building class and national solidarity among all sectors of workers, including casualized, informalized, and the unemployed. When the youth battle to improve their lives, their efforts must be intertwined with the lives of all, women, people with disabilities, and the old. We need to encourage the youth as we encourage our people to strive towards doing even more in correcting the wrongs of our past. This duty is easily understood as described from the speech of the first Latin American Youth Congress by Ernesto Che Guevara, the then Minister of Industries in a free Cuba, when he said that the peasants are studying their tractor to fix its mechanical problems, so the fields of their cooperative yield more. The commitment towards forging a social compact for common nationhood must have no exceptions. The greatness of the labor of the youth, of profession and excellence should rise the fortunes of the whole humanity, not only of the youth itself. The task of a nation building is necessary, not taught, just as the first philosophers are reported to have been more natural. Learning the accountability is an integral part of individual development. The youth should not be taught to despise gender-based violence. The persistent rise of its ugly head must ignite the curiosity of the youth to inquire about its causes and to work to end it for good, to end gender-based violence for good. The youth must be able to assist the country to characterize the demon of GBV in all its manifestations. Then they can work with and among the people to stand guard within their key quarters in their communities and finally wipe it completely. As I conclude, the youth must also understand the implication of their activism in the global context. Government also has the responsibility to ensure that platforms are created to ensure global youth network. While it is our role as different arms of the state to place resources at the disposal of the youth agenda, the youth itself must rise. The youth network should be used to empower and motivate the youth to aspire to be good leaders, first in their countries and then in the world. Different international institutions, such as the World Bank and the World Health Organization, the United States, have lined up youth activities focusing on various topics. The youth must locate themselves in every local focal area and seek to advocate for change within their own communities. In approaching these activities, the youth in South Africa should among other issues, focus on the progress made by our country in addressing the Millennium Development Goals. These goals remain more relevant in our context than ever before. The youth must commit to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger inflicted by high levels of unemployment. The risk of continuing crisis of GBV and femicide imposes great threat on gender equality. Young people must also be commended, for there are many targets met in education. This way, we'll be able to respond to many international commitments made by government on behalf of its people. Dear young people, with these few ways, allow me to welcome you to this important session of the Free State Youth Parliament 2022. Many people will follow the session from our Facebook and YouTube channels. May you imbue them with your alertness and high-quality debates. May you motivate them to believe in themselves, the ability of our country to reach total prosperity. Finally, may your contribution assist in promoting sustainable livelihood and resilience of people for a better tomorrow. I wish you all the best. I thank you.
Thanks very much, the Honorable Speaker, Mezanele Sefuba. Indeed, you touched on the mandate of the legislature, the lawmaking, the oversight part of it, and public participation, which gave birth to this sectoral parliament. And by so doing, we are strengthening and deepening participatory democracy. Indeed, the unemployment rate is high, and there are factors, in fact, that we need to take cognizance of, which is the population growth, the lack of experience, inappropriate job-seeking techniques, and the lack of career guidance at the level of schools. I think the discussions also will assist us in tackling or dealing with these factors, in fact, that exacerbates the unemployment rate. We are now calling upon the MEC of this year, Tatema Kalomahal. The government will be talking to you, honorable members. Tatema Kalo?
No. Thanks very much, Your Honor. Thanks very much, Honorable Chair of Chairs, Acting Speaker. Greetings to all of you. Protocol observed, honorable youth members. I've already recognized Honorable Speaker of the Legislature, Ms. Fuba, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Mema Pena, the Chief Whip, Ntate Meko, Chair of Chairs, Tate Khatebe, all members here, and members of the executive, officials, but most important, members of today's sitting. Chair, I'll definitely won't be long because mine is to deal with a focused topic on the economy. But perhaps let's start here to try and understand the task of government in general. Why do we have government, or the executive to be precise? As you all know, the three divisions of the state power, or what makes the state, one of them is government. Ms. Fuba, when she was here, spoke about the task of the legislative arm. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a representative from the other arm, which is judiciary, but it's no issue, but those are the three now. The role of this one of executive, which we'll be speaking about, myself or Honorable Brown and I, is in the main to ensure that it implements the mandate and all the ethos and objectives espoused in the Constitution. When the Constitution say everyone is equal before the law, it is the task of the executive to ensure that there are systems in place and mechanisms in place. When the Constitution say the rights of the children, Section 28, 1E, are paramount in all the issues, it's the executive that has to ensure that all of those find practical expression, because it's one thing to have something in the book, for example, the Constitution or the law. Someone somewhere has to ensure that that issue that is raised there or that right finds expression. We can't say we have the right to education, and by mere pronouncing that right, we assume that it will happen. Someone must build a school, must bring a teacher, who will then bring education and so on. So that's the task, that's why it's called the executive, to execute. But here, we are here to discuss about the issue of the economy. Now, in the context of that execution, there are different roles and functions. One of those functions is the economic development. Now, why the economic development as a function? We regard that as one of the most important, because all the other functions, they centered around the issues of the economy. When all the parties campaign during elections, when the new government come into office, at the center of their messaging to the people is always to better the people's life. They all commit, they all promise, and even the government policy is all geared around changing the lives of the people for the better. Now, for that to happen, it basically means, when the question is, what is this to better the lives of our people? At the center of it, we did not look far. The basics that we have all taught when we are all living in primary. At least your 4 basic needs must be satisfied. You must eat, you must clothe, you must recreate, you must have shelter. Then second to that is all about the quality of how you meet those basic needs. So that's basically the task of an economic system, or the task of government when trying to improve the lives of the people. That is why there are specific departments, one dealing with human settlements, that deals with the shelter part of it. There's Department of Social Development and Economic Development that seeks to ensure that at least you have some means to survive in form of either the work or revenue or wealth acquisition, so that you can be able to eat and clothe and so on. So that's where the issue of economic development, that's why we say everything centers around it. But what then it is, if we were to summarize this task of government in ensuring that everyone is able to meet his or her own basic needs. Now, in this context, government has the 2 fundamental or intertwined responsibility in the context of South Africa. One is to ensure that the economy grows. The importance of the growth of the economy is that for people to continue having their jobs, or for those that need or that must enter the labor market, there must be new jobs that are created. And as a result, you need the economy that is functioning. A classical or basic example is that if you have a shop, if that shop is not making a profit, it will close down. So the responsibility of the shop owner is to ensure that at least the store or the shop continues to make a profit, sell the new products at a profit. It must be well managed so that hopefully it can expand. If you had 1 person that was your assistant, at least as it expands, it must have 2 or more people. Now, it's exactly the same as government. We don't want to just have a stagnant economy, because a stagnant economy, it means it does not grow. And if it doesn't grow, there can't be new jobs. If we're having the economy that is declining, it means the economy will shed the jobs because there will not be anything that is earned into the or by the economy. So that's basically, I thought I should just run through those basic issues quickly. But in the main, the task of the democratic government in our context, as I said, is to improve the quality of life of our people. But again, within the context of democratizing the state. As you would know the history of South Africa, it remains a task of this government to ensure that there is equality, there is non-sexism, there is non-racialism, there's no discrimination, everyone lives in harmony, there is prosperity, which I'll come to it later on when I'm about to conclude. And part of that, the government of the day does it through the issues of the policy and the legislative intervention. A policy, for an example, you can take a white paper on higher education or the white paper on local government in 1998, which was defining the new model of governance in the new democratic South Africa, which facilitates a transition from your TLCs. It was spelling out that what's the task of the local government within the context of the RDP document, which was adopted immediately after 1994, which was saying the government or local government as part of the spheres of government must be developmental. And at that time during your TLCs, you would know that there were different governments. There was one for the cities, there was one for the townships, and it was very difficult to advance development. Now with the white paper as a policy document, it defined what should happen, and ultimately it culminated into the enactment of certain policy, of certain legislative pieces, your Municipal Systems Act and your Structures Act and so on, which facilitated the new arrangements in terms of. So this is how government works. Start at the level of the policy, define what you want, and to give effect to it, you bring the legislation afterwards. And you even go further for sub-legislation like your regulations, which gives a practical, which assists the practical implementation of certain things. Now, economically, what we have in our country is that we have many policies in terms of economic development. I would not bore you with them, but at the center of it, they say there must be a very conducive environment. The philosophical perspective of government, of the democratic government of the day, is that we need to create a conducive and balanced environment for everyone to participate, for everyone to be able to make ends meet, to be able to have his or her own needs be met, as we have indicated. And part of it, it centers, as I spoke about it, is about the growth. We don't want an economy which is stagnant. So the policies of government of the day seeks to advance the fact that our economy must perform better, so that at least we can have all these opportunities, one. But secondly, out of appreciation of our historical past, the second intertwined function of the government when coming to matters of economy is the issue of transformation. It makes no point to have the economy that is growing. At the same time, it's not address the aspirations and objectives of a democratic government. It doesn't assist to have the economy that is growing, but at the same time, it does not address, for an example, the issues that I've indicated, the issues of discrimination, the issues of inequality. That is why the two are complementary to one another. We don't want to have one at the expense of the other. At the same time, it makes no sense to have a transformed economy, but which means nothing. A typical example you can cite Zimbabwe, where after very progressive interventions that are made, but they couldn't manage the issues of inflation, where if you have R1 million in your pocket, it means nothing. There is no value to it. So we want to strike a balance to ensure that we have a transformed, growing the economy. That is why even when you look at the vision of the leading department on economic matters in the province, it speaks around transformation of the economy in a sustainable manner, which also need to pursue growth. Now that we know what is the role of government in terms of economic issues, we first have to look as to how is this economy structured that we really seek to utilize as a strategic tool to better the lives of our people. And we're in the province of the Free State. I'll say a few words around the structure of the Free State. But we first appreciate that the economy of the Free State, or the economic system in general, is a very, I can use the word complex, but not difficult. Don't be threatened by it, it's of complex. It's just that it's too intrinsic and quite, there are so many interrelated issues when coming to the economy. First of all, the character of economic system, especially in our context, is not, there are no standalone activities on matters of the economy. To be practical, what is happening in the Free State affects what is happening in Gauteng, equally is affected by what is happening in the world. That is how the nature of the economy is. So, we have a very normal economy in the sense that all the economic activities are interrelated to one another. At the same time, there are some fundamental structural challenges that characterizes the economy of the Free State and that of South Africa. One of them being the equalities, which you cannot simply just try to change overnight. To be practical, the issue of the land, there are many theories around it. If you say that black people never had an opportunity, or they never had an opportunity to access to land, why must they pay? Because arguably others did not pay for the land. The question then becomes, how far back can you go? You also have to balance it with the constitution, constitutional rights, and so on. But you also have the other realities that the inequalities or the gap between the haves and the have-nots is quite huge, it's quite widened. So it's not a matter that you'll say today, okay, it's fine, I will take 1 trillion rand and give to the black people to equalize so that they're equal to their white counterparts who are in charge of the economy. It's not easy as that, if ever possible, but something that you are working towards with all the other means. So the economic character of South Africa and the Free State, it has all of those, what do you call, the structural challenges which we first have to deal with. But fortunately, we still believe that it's not something that is impossible. And we then have to take the economy of the Free State as to how does it respond to the basic economic questions that must be answered by every economic system. In any economic system which everyone else through it is pursuing the objective of using the economy to better the lives of the people. In that process, there are 3 fundamental economic questions that must be answered. Your economists will tell you. That is all about everything that we are doing. When everyone is going up and down, opening a factory, trading on the JSC, producing and so on, we seek to address the 3 basic things. What, for whom, and how much. What do we seek to produce, for whom, and at how much? And all of these other activities are yet around responding to that. Now, let's check in, and I'll tell you why I'm raising that, because all the programs that we are doing, or that every government sphere is pursuing, they are centered around that particular task of each economic system. But coming back home here, now, we realize that in the economy of the Free State, firstly, you've got one of the smallest economies in the country. Free State only accounts for 5% of the country's GDP. Your share is only 5%. It's equally the same in terms of your population. So even your population, you are a mere 5% of the country. The smallest is Northern Cape, both economically and as well as the population, but not in terms of the land size. Northern Cape is the biggest in terms of the land size. That is number 1. But 2, your province of the Free State is not a leader in production. Now, I raised the issues of the economic question as to, Every economic system needs to respond to those questions. Now, where we find it very difficult in our country or in our province is that we are unable to respond positively and with authority to two of the questions. What to produce and not how much. We know who to produce for our people. Now, because there is no economic activities in terms of the value add, where you process the commodities into their final form, you lose the benefit, you lose the value. That is why the economy is growing at a very slow pace. The economy of the country, for the first time since COVID, the maximum that it has grown with was 1.9 now in March, as opposed to 1.2 in the last quarter of 2021. But with the Free State, while the average is 1.9, we only saw a growth of 0.9 in terms of what the status is telling us. And that can be attributed to the fact that you don't have a value-add activities. Now, the strategy of the provincial government of the Free State was that for us to get things right, let's go and re-industrialize the province, meaning let's have factories. Let's ensure that you don't buy this thing or you don't buy this stand or whatever that you are using the equipment here. Let's ensure that it is made in the province, from your clothes, from whatever you consume, from everything that you use. That is the economic strategic approach of the Free State government. So if anyone say, what is the Free State strategy when coming to the issues of the economy? You must tell them that the Free State government says their strategy is to re-industrialize the economy. That is why all the other programs that comes out of it, the master plans that are done, anything that we have done or everything that we have done is geared towards realizing that strategy. We want to have the factories here. Now, the reason is because if you look at the three sectors that makes up the economy, your primary, secondary, and your tertiary sector, the biggest worry when coming to our economy, which resonates with its low performance, is precisely because the tertiary sector is the dominant employer, or the tertiary economic activities are dominant in terms of characterizing our economy. The tertiary sector is not primary, it's not secondary, it's all about the services. People working at the shops, people that are selling, which also includes the government contribution. And our worry is that government constitutes the second largest as a contributor to the community services as a component of the tertiary sector. So it means we are the largest, or not the largest, but within our economy, the consumption constitutes the large part as opposed to the production. The 16% is attributed to the primary sector. So meaning your agriculture and your mining in the main combined constitute only 16% of the Free State economy. And the other 16% is constituted by the key sector, which we believe is the one that we should focus on, the secondary sector. So your factories, your whoever who's making a juice somewhere, who's making bricks, who's making clothes, and so on. All of them combined, and thanks to Sasol, because they're the ones that are pushing that. They're one of the largest contributors, the Sasol firm that is located in the Free State. It makes 16%, which is quite worrying. And the hoping 68% is the one that I'm saying is tertiary services. So, as we are gathered here, Honorable Speaker, I want to conclude now. As we have gathered here, we need to, in my view, we need to have young people. Our expectation from you as we engage us is all about how best or how quick do we realize this ideal of re-industrializing the Free State, because we need, at least if we want to see a positive change, at least per annum we need to grow on a worst case, at least by 2.5%. If we have really outdone ourselves, at least 4.9 should be the target. So then we will know that we will be able to reach all of this which we intend to do. Now, having said that, then what are the key programs that is fine, the ANC government or the government of the day is pursuing in all of this that I have indicated, especially around reindustrializing the Free State. We have realized that there are a number of key issues that first needs to be addressed. Now, we are saying we need to get everyone, first of all, take them away from the social net provided by government. Unfortunately, again, your province, the Free State, or our province, myself included, the national average of people that relies on the social grants is 28.8% according to Stats SA. But in our context in the Free State, we've got majority of the income earned from the grants by a whopping 41%. That picture has to change, because that picture tells us that, and the salaries is 40%, and then the rest is business 8.6 and so on. People in business activities, as opposed to Gauteng, where majority of the people, 16% is constituted by those that earn from business activities. And very small number, I think again another 16% only comes from the grants. That is why the economy of Gauteng is performing, because the economy is able to sustain everyone. Not everyone is reliant on government. Now, the task of everyone in the Free State, one, is to ensure that we need to revive and boost economic activities. Young people must get or direct their energies on ensuring that they play a meaningful role in the economic activities, yes, in form of jobs, not only to go seek for a job, but to try and create jobs. That is why all these other programs of government, or a sizable number of them, seeks to support those that venture into activities that seeks to create jobs. I'm likely to be practical. What I mean is that I am likely to say, or we are inclined to support anyone that comes and say, I am producing food, I'm planting spinach, I'm packaging it, I'm selling it. We are inclined to support that person as opposed to someone who comes and say, I want to make a car wash. Nothing wrong with the car wash, just that we need to understand the level of priorities. In some areas, in Gauteng, car washes may be a more viable option because they've got cars. There's a market which is more lucrative than us in the Free State. But in our instance, what becomes lucrative is to venture into the production of those inputs. That's why, hence I'm saying, if you are involved in agriculture, you are involved in agro-processing, we are likely to support you, because with that activity, it's going to have what you call stream and upward in agro-processing business. You're already creating another leg for transport. You're not creating another leg for something else for whoever who has, from whom you are leasing the factory. You're already creating an opportunity for someone to supply you with a machine. That is why we're saying the production sector is the way to go. The theory of an economic system, like I always tell young people, is that to make money in the economy, you must produce to sell something and earn the income. That's the long and short of it. There's no one who makes money out of nothing. There's no one who makes money like manna from heaven. There's no such a thing in the economy. So for you to have something in your pocket, you must work, and that working is that you must sell something, either in form of a service or in form of the commodities that you produce. But we are discouraging this one where you just go to a big store to just buy and want to resell, because there is no value there and there is no transformation aspect. That is the first thing that the government of the day is saying. Let's go through the production process and ensure that young people are geared towards it. But secondly, we also take note that there's an issue with the market access. Because of the transformation issue which I spoke about at the start, that there are some structural challenges. Part of those structural challenges are the monopolies in the economic system. It's very difficult for small black business, that's our observation, majority of them are black, out of research. It's very difficult for them to go to big businesses and say, I want to conduct business with. A typical example, you may have a group of mamas or young ladies doing their uniform and selling it anywhere. I can tell you it will be a struggle to get just even one bank or one of the big companies to say, let's buy a uniform from you. There's no willingness to do so. That is why we're part of what we're doing as government is to fight them and say, create opportunities for this fellow. So those monopolies that are there, it's all about who do you know and who believes in who and so on. Now, it is a task of government. We believe that we can't say go and venture into very important strategic economic activities and then we leave you there with the problems that we encounter. So the issue of market access is one of the key issues that the government of the day needed to address, one. But secondly, the issues of finance, that you need money to start anything. Unless you are lucky, you've got a very rich family that helped you with all the things to start your business. But majority of whom that you are relying on to venture into economic activities, they've got a problem of funding. It's one of the issues that we needed to deal with. But most importantly, majority of the businesses, the research shows us that 2/3 of the businesses collapse in the first 2 or 3 years. And whose businesses are those? They're the businesses of the very people that we say go and venture into business activities for various reasons. Now, that is why the government of the day came up with a program that say, in the Free State, we must provide, or we're currently providing, a whole range of business support. Business support is not a funding, it's not a container, it's not a business support is holistic, all the things that are necessary for you to run a successful business. From the knowledge is very important, the technical know-how, business administration, getting funding and so on. Because you know how to run your business. That is one of the reasons why your business is collapse. Because someone gets money, becomes lucky, get a lucrative market, but he doesn't know how to handle the books. The first 100 rand that comes into the business, the person consumes. The following day, there's no money to buy stock. So we're saying the government of the Free State has came up with programs to support the business from the inception, continue to mentor and manage them. We're currently having about 314 that are in the program, hoping that if we can get enough money, we can double the number with years, because we don't want any business to collapse. Because if we already have at least 300 businesses that are functioning, what we know for sure is that those businesses, they are not employing anything less than 2 people each. It means there's 600 people that, now you can imagine, you can do the maths, as and when they prosper and we enroll many of those businesses. Because those are functioning ones that we have identified. That's one of the issues that the government of the day is doing. And the one I spoke about around the market access, to try and engage the big businesses to create opportunities for those that do not have opportunities. Because the transformation role is that we don't just want to de-racialize society. We must de-racialize even the economy as well. We must not have the economy of the whites, economy of the blacks. The one of the whites is the mainstream, lucrative, nice, big businesses, counting millions and billions. The ones of blacks, we are counting 10 cents, 30 cents selling alongside. They said, no. We would have failed if we are not able to bridge the gap. That's the task of, the second task of our objective to transform. So the role of the economic development now finally is to ensure that all these activities are needed. That is part of what we have done now as the late measure. We have brought Free State local economic development or Free State integrated local economic development and transformation bill. Now, this bill seeks to speak to all of these issues that we have indicated. It will enable governments to say, anyone who wants to manufacturing, who is still struggling with the market access, it gives power to government to say, we will only buy goods or commodities from the local producers who are Free State and for the activities that have taken place in the Free State. So as a result, we are trying to create or stimulate demand legislatively. Produced practically, it will say for school nutrition, in the Free State. That's basically what it says. For the desks, the school desk, whoever that will give a tender, as a condition must buy in the Free State. That's one. But second, addresses the issue of market access. But secondly, it appreciates the fact that the little that the locals had, like your tuck shop, your locals, your car washes, your salons, that which used to be what we rely on, it has also been taken away because there is no regulation. So it seeks to say, for a particular industry, the rule of thumb is that if you have the locals in that sector who are able to run that particular business activities, let it be ring-fenced for them. Only those where you need a specialized skill that you can have people, you can allow people outside the province or outside the country to that. So we're providing the quotas and have exclusive ring-fencing of those activities. So that's basically one of the hot issues. There are also other issues that is trying to touch around that. Let's ensure that our businesses are properly registered. By law, you can't run a business anywhere in the country unless a particular municipality where you are running that business has given you a license. That's the law, the Businesses Act of 1991. But we have realized that there have been some limitations insofar as implementing that particular law. So we are trying to help municipalities by bringing the norms and standards as to how they should put in the things in place, because we now also provide the model forms and the entire processes as to what is it that they can follow. And lastly, the issue of, that is in the bill, the issue of regulating the business associations. It's quite sad that the genuine struggle of people economically, it has now started to be used for other purpose other than the one that is intended to. Under normal circumstances, business people come together in form of association, fight for their rights, either they are a chamber when engaged, the other private sector players engage government, and so as to have a voice for business, for development purposes, something which we have always supported. But now, someone wakes up today because he didn't get a tender or because he wants to stand as a councillor, it's a business forum, close the door. What are you fighting for? Samaspal, or we want not happy with just by the disguise of business order in terms of this legislation. That for you, before you can call yourself a business person or an association, these are the requirements that we must meet, so that we ensure that those that are serious about advancing the voice of the business, the environment is not polluted, they're able to do it diligently without any disturbance. Because today you are discussing with this business association, tomorrow there are 10 more, then you start after negotiations that we have done. Let's bring, this is part of the legislative interventions that the government of the day has put. The bill is before the legislature, it's busy being processed accordingly. So it's one of those measures legislative in pursuit of this policy of reindustrializing and ensure that the issues. And very, very in line with it, or contrary to that, that is why the Free State government has also invested a lot in education. Because if you look at the stats, there is a positive relationship between education and the economy. Of the people that are living in poverty, according to the stats, only 2% of them, they have post-school information. And a whopping 34% of people living in poverty are those without any schooling or any basic schooling education. So it then basically means the more educated or the more you have through formal education, better chance in your life, either through entrepreneurship, so on. So, dealing with the issues of the government, the role that close relationships, many of them went either abroad, some of them to run their own business out of. But some got opportunity market to change the conditions. Scheme or that was we want to create but also to try and help young people to place them in a better position to either be marketable labor-wise, but also to be candidates for this journey of economic development. That is why even the type of courses we prescribe are saying those ones that are necessary. I'll not be doing justice if I don't saying part of the key sectors that we are pursuing, much as we are pursuing reindustrialization, is the issue of agriculture. The Free State government is calling for young people, for us to change our conditions, to take advantage of our strength. We are the only province, or compared to other provinces, we are more stronger on agriculture. We used to be a food basket of the country. So we're saying, let's make agriculture sexy. Don't be worried, that's actually what is needed. Because if we can maximize on the agriculture, it will be easy for us to reindustrialize, to make all the commodities that we want. They all have their source, or a good number have their source within the agriculture. We must produce food so that we can be able to package them. Currently now, even those that are dealing with food processing, they are no more getting their inputs from the Free State. They are getting it from other provinces. They get fruit from Western Cape, from Limpopo, and try and mix it here, which is something very wrong. So we need to ensure that we go back where we produce. So you must study agriculture, you must venture into the agriculture-related industries. Even the technology-wise, you must be preoccupied by making the implements and the tractors and so on that are related to agriculture, so that we can grow this sector. So your task, I've presented to you what we are trying to do. You have an opportunity to engage us on that, but most importantly, we need you to play a meaningful role in ensuring that you take advantage of this. Your criticism, in our view, it should be a criticism that say, fix here so that we can get a little bit better this way. Don't say no, don't do that, and then don't tell us what we must do. We remain amenable, and we believe that young people will be the ones that are driving this particular programs. The reports that will be presented, you'll see what other things that we're trying to do specifically for young people, but we want you to play a meaningful role. Honorable Chair of Chairs, thank you very much. My apology for taking long. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Honorable Magalo. Indeed, you were explicit in defining the fundamentals of economics. But you never touched on the details. I think the issue it was about a program, but I must applaud you. I thought you would even go astray not to touch on the opposing forces of economy. You touched on them. You went at length in ensuring that we understand that the role of government in economy, it's about a policy, and here and the pockets of interventions and so on. The president has caused a stir sometimes back when he was saying the government does not create jobs, but public sector. So clearly, if you define economy, it will tell you most probably the government to play much role when it comes to a policy, which from time to time will transform the conditions, living conditions of our people. And of course, the transformation agenda of the province, I think you touched on it. And a part of it, even if you never mentioned, but we're in the process actually of transforming in a form of a transformational bill. The strategy, industrialization, your own department as well as agriculture. We are thankful about this whole presentation. Let me invite Honorable Khadija. Honorable members of the sectoral parliament, I think let's engage with both presentations after the one of Honorable Khadija Brown. If that is in order, Khadija, please approach the podium.
Kia ora. Thank you so much, Chair of Chairs, Honorable Hadebe. And I do support the request. A lot of the detail that you were looking at will form the basis of my presentation to this beautiful youth parliament of today. Before I start, let me and allow me to recognize the Honorable Speaker, Mazanele Sifuba, the Deputy Speaker, Malusi Mapena, our Chair of Chairs, who is facilitating this session of the morning, Honorable Hadebe, our Chief Whip of the Legislature, Honorable Meko, the members of the Executive Council who are listening on our virtual platforms, but MEC here, MEC Mohale, members of the Free State Legislature, and our young member, Honorable Khao, who was born in 1997, just yesterday. Happy birthday. Yes, you may. 3 years after democracy, she was born, so she is dealing with those issues. Honorable Makasini, who was here, Honorable Majake, Honorable Klutzer, and of course yourselves, the leadership of the Youth Parliament, obviously various leaders of youth in various organizations, NGOs and sectors of various economies of the Free State, members of the public present, and the youth at large on both platforms. Good day. The theme this year is promoting sustainable livelihoods and resilience of young people for a better tomorrow. And part of that theme as a government, and today we're speaking as government, and the reason why the Speaker and the House at large in terms of the legislature had requested both MEC Mohale and I, we were born in the 80s, so we still see ourselves as youth, but now we are called Youth Indala. Right? The older youth, so we're in between, we mixed amongst the young people. We don't know where we actually want to be, whether we still want to be young or whether we're slowly tapping into the old, but yes, that is us. But what we do know, Honourable Speaker and Honourable Chair of Chairs, is that as a government, we do and we have heard and we are trying to understand and we recognize that the youth of today have completely different struggles to the youth of yesterday. And that struggle consists of the fight of economic emancipation, and that's largely why we had requested MEC Mohale to go into such detail from an economic perspective. A generational struggle. So part of the work that I'm going to do is to look at the resolutions of last year and give you feedback this year. And a lot of what has come out in last year's discussions was the generational struggle. Socioeconomic adversities, substance abuse, access to education, unemployment, HIV/AIDS, gender-based violence, identification of sexuality and other norms, and of course fitting into norms of society, and of course inequality adversities. Now, given that context, what I have in front of me is the report of 2020. And that report of 2020 had specific details. So MEC Mohale and I, through the Speaker of this legislature, had engaged all members of the Executive Council, and we had looked at this report, and we had then followed the basis of this report in terms of an action plan and in terms of a reporting framework. Part of that action plan and reporting framework is led by the youth advisors in the Office of the Mayor Twilopile, you may be here today. What would happen is, as we allow where you own parliament and you create for youth in this, Mayor Twilopile will be able to deal with those issues that are articulated if there is a requirement for or back to EXCO and allow to refeature those that you're raising into our process of in this government. So the first was the issue of students in the province and what is it that government is doing for education, tertiary education and province. To date, this government over the past 5 years has invested $1.05 billion over 5 years. Average year on year, 250 million is executed and spent on bursaries for this province. Over the 5 years, we're looking at an average 3-year qualification, and this is how we're calculating it. 3-year qualification, 5,950 young people that went through tertiary under the direct support of Free State government at 100,000 Rand a month. Stipends, in some areas accommodation, in some areas full tertiary education was provided. So the value in 5 years was 1.250 billion. Can I just tell you that that value is more than my budget as Free State Treasury? My budget in Free State Treasury is 369 million a year. We have spent 1.250 billion on education. So you can understand what education means to this province if you put it into context. Now, further to that, the reason why the economy plays such a big role, because the next question you are saying is, what is the return on investment, right? And we are saying that we have unemployed graduates in this province, people with highest qualifications, some masters, some doctorate degrees, but they're unemployed. And this is a conversation that I want to take back to you. Do we want to create job seekers, or do we want to create job creators? Because I can tell you the challenge of the way of work, and I'm going to go into detail in terms of research from a national, global, and South African perspective, is that, let's start locally. The country, and Free State specifically in provincial government, we are already at 63% of cost to employment over our equitable share. So 26 billion goes to paying salaries in government, whilst we have a 40 billion budget. In local government, 40% of local government employees, that's the ratio that, or the threshold that we are looking towards, so that we could have a municipality that is run like a business. Revenue, expenses, and dealing with the matters of service delivery. So the minute we start finding ourselves as government trying to be the number one employer in this province, we are creating an unsustainable government that is not going to be able to give you and our communities what it needs from basic services. Just the basic work that we need to do. So your question today, out of that, after we've invested 1.250 billion to your education, what is it that you think this young, vibrant resources towards this economy should be doing? Should you be seeking jobs, or should you be creating jobs? And if you are seeking jobs, should it be in the private sector, or should it be in the public sector? Because if we are creating jobs, we are creating a private sector who then has services requirements like legal support, accounting support. Those services that you are learning, those supports can also go into the private sector, not only government. That is the first question that we had. The other one was student accommodation is a problem that needs direct support. And today and yesterday, and we launched it on Sunday evening, NSFAS was hosting a student accommodation summit in the province, where we've had key players within this environment coming in and talking about the status, doing the condition assessments of the current student accommodation, understanding just a qualitative basis what our current student accommodation setup looks like in Bloemfontein at this stage, but they're going to do it across the Free State. And then after that analysis and report is concluded, they have to go out to the market in terms of driving student accommodation, either in public-private partnerships, or if the private companies want to do it by themselves, they will. But that analysis is being conducted and done as we speak this week, so it really helps us there. A statistical request on the young in business opportunities, 6 billion, your conditional grants are 4.5 billion, your infrastructure grants are 13 billion, and goods and services is 7.5 billion. So out of the 7.5, 13 and 4, 49% of young people had access to do business with government. In the past, It was a little bit lower at 41%. Our target initially is 30% in terms of the set aside that is relevant on the Act, but at this point, Free State Government has been able to support 49% over the 2 years that I've calculated. The value that we have in this report for this year is an amount of 800. I'll tell you how many millions we've been able to support young people. And apologies, I'm going to go through the papers in different forms because I want to try and be coherent in terms of your questions that were raised. So the government spending was 800,322,000 over the last financial year. So that is quite a good amount. And I think we can do better in terms of how and in terms of to do business. It's a very competitive environment. As government, we have to deal with issues of functionality. We have to deal with issues of price. There was another question as we're going in here with regards to taking away or doing away with the tender system. And I think it's something that it's going to take a long time for us to be able to gazette in a parliamentary space because of our modified cash standards and our accounting requirements and the PFMA in terms of the legislation and act. But what we have done as a government, we shifted the threshold of quotations. It used to be 500,000 and below where you could, and now in the past we've shifted the threshold based system to 1 million. So anything that is required by provincial government or national government, you can basis. It doesn't for you to put and to do the full tender process. Barrier to entry. If you don't have systems in place, if you don't know how to deal with a tender system, obviously compliance is required, CSD, access to BAS, access to LOGIS, your taxes need to be in place. If you need any assistance between myself and MEC Mohale, we do training, Treasury does training and outreach programs. MEC Mohale on how to have on tenders. You can just walk into Treasury, Mr. Mabels, they will be able to and help you with the computers. But for young people, news, because you don't deal with that thick payment, you're doing supply chain, your normal items, and you can go on a quotation basis. How come we've been able to lift from the 30% to the 40% as we did in the past? Destia had youth pitching, benefited some 220 youth over the past. They also did under pitching, it was career access to both financial support, mental awareness, cleaning and tourism promotion, and other type of youth awareness sessions. In terms of departments, 25 youth companies through the development program was a total of 2,080 employment opportunities were created. Last 3 years CDP program. The contractor development program was an intervention of public, and it also dealt with mechanisms towards the extended public works program. In collaboration with SASL, a total of 300 youth were supported in computer literacy programs from some areas, Denaceville, Orangeville, and other areas in the Molo area, and that was supported through a digital skills program. Under NDA and under the National Service Program, 732 youth were benefiting from the Building and Civil Construction and Environmental Practices Skills Program under the Youth Service through this program. In responding to 19 and the presidential package that was released State of the Nation by our President, that it was 18,801 young people were in that presidential package, employment package, through the Department of Education. And further to that, development also had a presidential employment package, also had a presidential package where youth were also assisted in to be able to short-term employment during that. The Free State Skills and Development Institute, and this is out of the birth program, a total of 2,572 young people have been placed under those graduate programs, as your CETAs on during that the last financial year, and in this year, CETA has been visiting the Free State Province with 4,100,000 over 60, I think around 650 learners in various municipalities. So 40 million was provided from and 650 learners benefited out of that program, and that was led by the Office of the Premier. It's really able to give you more detail. NSFAS ranging nothing, we could talk to 300,000 rands per annum, and we still to work very closely with us to augment some of the gaps when it comes to the that we have. GAT program, really trying to address and how do we deal with the poorest of the poor, those who are middle earners, and how do we manage, of course, those individuals able to deal with cities by themselves. Free would start of the poor. The digital industrial revolution of things, artificial, whatever it digital, we could also call cryptocurrency, chains. That is the future of city excellence. It's up to you to realize that facility to what it's intended for. And I would this to be your center of excellence province, and I believe skills programming it does through various areas of is able to in this province between the method of from a traditional method to the future of skilling people, something that we could work for. In terms of Free State, there's other matters that we also raise. So 599 social workers through the social work program. 305 of these are permanently. 311 internships have been placed in the Department of Development. So there was a matter that was raised on your resolution to state that the ECD program is not assisting young people in terms of the feeder support and the basis of how we deal with education in our province, and thus we have moved the ECD function away from social development to the Department of Education, and that happened this year. We shifted the function, we shifted the budget, and we shifted some of the resources that needed to be supported by the Department of Education to ensure that the focus is education and that the focus is reliant on some of the challenges that you raised in the past youth programs that you've raised with us. Qualified youth with disabilities are absorbed into the employment mainstream. We can still do a lot more in the people who are living with disabilities area. Our white paper states that 7% of people living with disabilities is the target for integration, both in the private and public sector. I know that as provincial government, we are just a little bit above the 2% mark, and I think there's a lot of rapid work that needs to be done, because it hadn't been over a period where that percentage basis points had increased. It was just overnight. So we've got to deal with matters of attrition, matters of absorption rates, matters of restructuring, and so on and so forth, to deal with the people who are living with disabilities in our province. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture supported young artists I'm told the value was 5.5 million. The relief fund to 987 young artists was provided over the past financial year. In terms of broadband, it has been rolled out to 185 libraries in the province and free Wi-Fi at 155 libraries. So a remainder of 30 libraries still need to be connected in this financial year. An amount of 11 million rand investment was made available for this. I believe that as we do the rollout of the remaining 30, we will continue that investment to ensure it's deep and the availability of people going into a township library and being able to have access to free Wi-Fi and broadband offerings. Now, the issue of digital skills and the requirement there, I must also raise the issue that the spectrum has been gazetted and increased, which is allowing for every single corner of this country to have access to not only the DTT processes, and that is quite phenomenal for Africa and Southern Africa. So I think that the Department of Communications and Technology had been very progressive in terms of for that spectrum. Congratulations, South Africa. I think get Wi-Fi a lot more cheaper if we analyze the process in terms of implementation and rollout across the country. I think that on land care with agriculture, 25 agricultural projects were implemented for young people to the value of 8.5 million. 11 jobs were secured, and this is between your emerging and I think one of them were commercial-based young people that are in the agricultural sector. So we looking at Mangaung Metro, fodder production, Ledwelleput, and then the youth forestry and fisheries, 7 projects from Futsanyana, Ledwelleput, Vezili Dabi to the value of 1.7 million. 13 jobs were created. And it was mixed farming, so you had sheep, you had grazing, you had also some of your food commodities that had also been part of some of the work. So outside of livestock, it was also food commodities there. Honourable Chair of Chairs, I think I'm almost done with this report back, but I'd also just like on a generic basis to talk to some of the ways that we need to deal with matters going forward. And Mayor Tswelopile is going to deal with the last couple of programs that we're doing over the next couple of days to finalize our youth program. But I think it would be important for me as I go through the last part of our discussion paper is that we need to advise the youth of this parliament that as you set your policy and your white paper today, we do have youth advisors in every department of our province. We do have youth advisors in every municipality. And if you really want to deal with the agenda of youth as robustly as you do, that's where we start, being able to direct policy and create a structure within those and hold them accountable for the jobs that they're holding. And our head of youth is here, and I'm challenging her as well. Young people in those positions, you are in a position of decision making and power in government. You gotta do your work. And I'm asking you as this youth parliament, as you deal with your resolutions, allow those representatives of yourselves, hold them accountable to do their work. So as we reported back, there is a lot that this Free State provincial government has done. But you know what our biggest area of inconsistency is the area of communication. And it may be also the area of making sure that it's integrated into every corner of this province. And we are not seeing that dealt as robustly as we would like to see it being dealt. So Mayor Tswelopile, I think at some point it would be a very, very good exercise to call a speaker through you, to call every representative that is holding a youth position in your youth in the municipalities and in your departments to come and form part of the gallery here and be able to and be able to also account for what it is that they are doing in this youth parliament. I also would like to lastly state, Honourable Chair of Chairs and Honourable Speaker, in terms of the method of education, and this is something that we're also placing deep focus on, is math, science and technology. And the MEC of Education shows his passion in this regard. And we're seeing it come up in the young people today who are doing it for themselves in this area. Young people are leading when it comes to math, science and technology in our province. And that should address the entrepreneurship issue. It should address the job creation issue. It should address the industrialization manufacturing issue. It should address the 4IR issue. And yeah, I just want to close through you, Chair of Chair, and I think I'd really like to state this in terms of the research that both Provincial Treasury and I'm also doing in my personal capacity as I'm concluding my Masters on what SMME development and manufacturing does for a growing economy or developmental economy. We do know that the state of our global economy is, unfortunately, it has been suppressed. We do have challenges. Yet the Stats SA results has shown that Free State has grown in terms of jobs, not grown, but improved on job creation by 56,000 jobs in the past quarter, year on year. But it still does not reflect the state of unemployment in the youth area. And this is where I'm asking you as young people to disrupt the system, to change that status quo. And I think largely we spoke about the private sector. It is also up to us to engage the private sector, which we are doing as a government. We've got sector sessions, and it's led by MEC Mohale and the Premier, where we hold discussions with, for example, mines, and we challenge mines and say to mines, on your procurement, how many black people are in your preferential procurement pipeline? How many young people or businesses that are in your preferential procurement pipeline? And if they are not there, please be honest and be truthful and state to us why you cannot have black or young people or women or people in rural environments access your preferential procurement policies or your preferential procurement areas. And we then sit down with them and talk to them about giving us access as government to deal with that. Sorry, Chair of Chairs, I've got somebody who is very excited. But if I can just conclude, sir, through you, Chair of Chairs, I'd just like to conclude this last part. If we, as the financial service sector, the MEC of Finance, we do the same with banks. We check with banks, why is your banking management staff lily white when you've got professionals that come out, unemployed graduates? So we're addressing the issue of the private sector, and we need to deal with the private sector as we do with the public sector, as we hold ourselves responsible for the transformation and development of young people, women, people living with disabilities and so on and so forth. But I want to state this, and I want to give you something outside of what MEC Mohale raised. I want to raise this issue so that it could also form part of your new discussion documents as we've reported back. What is the world, and how do the youth envision the future? And research houses, Deutsche Bank, World Economic Forum, and others predict that the future will require a more streamlined workforce. And part of your discussion is to say, why do we want to go digital? Because we're closing jobs. But yet, do we know how to reskill, so that we can hold their jobs, but take not only government, but this country forward and be competitive at a global level? So it is stating that during these structural economic changes that we are about to face, we are seeing a more streamlined workforce with greater focus on productivity, greater focus on industrialization, and greater focus on mechanization. Those are the three key areas, and MEC Mohale raised that. But further to that, Commodities, although traditional commodities, gold, platinum, iron ore, wheat, your futures, your hedge funding, the other ways of the financial markets in traditional ways that we deal with it, is being bombarded by blockchain, digital currency, and so on and so forth. So it is predicted to be a dominant currency over the next 10 years. And China had pronounced that in 2020, because they too are also backing the currency by minerals and gold, to be specific. They're no longer going to adhere to the central currency of the US dollar. So we're finding that the new ways of work based on the new changes in our economy is going to change the way we as South Africans have to think about doing business with the world, and even think about doing business with Africa. Because Rwanda, I can tell you, is far more advanced in terms of technology and the way they manage their economies going forward. Methods of trade has transformed, and this is why the MEC is so critical about manufacturing and industrialization, because those who are making it is Alibaba. Those who are making it is your Elon Musks, who are dealing with trade systems, your Amazons, and so on and so forth. So I've seen young people in this province creating their own trade portals. Their own portals. There's an app created by a young person who is able to buy and sell, and he does it for a profit. And that is quite amazing. So I think it is something that we need to also look at. And then your wholesale sectors, your logistics distribution, and your retail sectors are also changing. So this issue of malls are becoming to phase out while you're dealing with online trading. But last but not least, if I can also say that as a government, to be able to be that manufacturing or industrial province, we have to deal with the job drivers of our economy. And MEC raised the three major areas or key points, but I'm also going to give you what it is that you can do to bring yourself into those job drivers to help this youth parliament. Number one, our economic drivers are water. So in 1994, only 51% of South Africans had water. Today, we are looking at over 82% of South Africans that have water. So it's 88.6%. Water is a key requirement for industrialization. If you have any areas of inputs in terms of what we can do to change the way we deal with water infrastructure and the services of water, let us know. We know our infrastructure needs to be changed. We know there are issues of boreholes. We know that there's issues of water harvesting. We know there are issues of sustainable goals and reticulation. That's the future of water. And if you feel that that is some of the discussions that you want to raise, bring it to us. Let us work on plans to make sure that we budget for the future of water. On electricity, and yes, we do have enormous challenges with Eskom at the moment. We do have enormous challenges at municipal level at the moment, and the debt towards Eskom, which is really hindering the capability of deploying electricity at a less volatile basis to our country. So by 1994, and understand, pre-1994, we only had 36% of Africans who had access to electricity. During that time, this government had to make sure that we brought electricity up to 89%, which is a big amount, but we've got to change the way we look at electricity. Coal, diesel to support Eskom needs to deal with hybrid renewable energy, and those are opportunities for young people who do have a great mind for energy solutions in the country. It's something that you can do. On land, we've above 2,000 that the province is ready to dispose of through public works, the Land Administration Act, which is housed in the Premier's office. That is access to land that you as young people, if you've got a plan, you can utilize, come together, do a PPP, which is a public-private partnership, and be able to deploy some of these solutions that we're talking about towards creating a sustainable government for our province. On public-private partnerships, we've got full set-up systems. National Treasury is very keen. As Free State government, both MEC Mohale and I have got teams that deal with PPPs, and we also have a team that deals with the consensus of feasibilities and the revenue generation, and also the profitability through triple Ps for governments, through land use or other office uses, etc., that could be able to assist you with taking your programs or your projects forward and being able to also provide sustainable solutions for our province. We spoke a lot about technology, and technology is the only way that we're going to be dealing with cost savings. We have got a challenging fiscal environment where we are spending 15.9% more than we are collecting. All this paper on our desks is what is part of the Speaker's plan to create a digitalized legislature so that we could cut out the cost of paper and deal with technology better, have more efficient government. Those are some of the areas that we want to deploy the use of technology, and we hope that you are able to come together and assist us with that. Industrialization, as the MC outlined, he's got 296 factories in Putadichaba and 140 available in Botshabelo Industrial Park, and the Maluti Apufung is available, the SEZ, with tax incentives to assist you with being able to create some sort of industry in those areas that you are able to do some of your projects. And the MEC has got some good initiatives. MEC, I think it's a rental relief for the first 6 months, and also some support on property and in infrastructure support that he has, and which is very, very progressive on the issues of industrialization. Investment promotion is part of the job drivers. So if you find that you've got partners, I'm concluding, Chair of Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. If you find that you've got partners that wants to come in and invest in this province, we do, through FTC and others, we do assist with investment promotion. And then last but not least, the regulatory environment that is supposed to be conducive towards creating a functional, growing economy for the Free State. So in conclusion, Chair of Chair, I would love to also request this youth parliament to talk about a youth strategy. Because as we developed and delivered programs for the province through this youth month, we find that the youth, that our government was not listening. And if we have a consolidated youth strategy that is developed and articulated by youth for the government of the day, we can then utilize that strategy and deploy it into our programs and our mechanisms and integrate it across all spheres of government. But we cannot do that if we wanting to do certain things for youth, but we don't have a clear idea of what it is youth want. So I would like to, part of the work that you do is that you can create a youth, and the Office of the Premier IGR, Treasury, through integrated development, can assist in that at a national, local level, through governance processes and the policies that comes into this legislature, we can deploy your strategy accordingly. So that, without further ado, Chair, this youth is our future. Your parliament is the base of our future. Aluta continua. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Brown. The last time I checked, 10 minutes ago, you said last but not least. In the process, I'm about to arrive. I'm concluding. So maybe, Honorable Nesfuba, if this digital clock was activated, so that you are also being conscious of time. But we said we would allow honorable members of the youth sector to engage, so that they do have sufficient time. So this is the moment of clarity seeking questions. If you do have some, not a speech, please. Just straight to the chase. My question is then that's it. And also, please let me apologize up front. I do not know your names, but pardon me. Definitely, I will give you numbers. But as and when we go on break, then I'll be able to know every one of you. Let's start there at the back. You'll be the first one, next to you, the second one, Madam, the third one, then the last one. In that order.
Greetings to the Honorable Speaker, ABC, and officials present here today. I'm raising actually a point of order, Speaker. My name is Marifun Boni, EFF delegate. I'm rising on the order that, yesterday we were with the rules and regulations pertaining to this House, and I find it very that Chair of Chairs ignored the distinguished member there. Instead, he voted to not even give courtesy of calling him to order and removing him from the House. And I find very much dissatisfied with this.
Your point is noted. Thanks very much. I hope that individual was here. Members at the gallery, you do not participate. You have elected these honorable members to take your issues forward in the form of the engagement without you being part. Really, thanks very much. Who's next?
Thank you, Chair. The House. My name is I'm very much concerned with the articulation or maybe the from the honorable member Makai. Because now we are sitting with a situation whereby the state and let me articulate on this one. We are on a situation whereby the prisoners bazaar have enough money to fund the students. Because now XUT, maybe to speak from that point, this bazaar of funds were just funding, but there's no money there. And equally, I'm aligned that the demands of the and he stated a very point by saying we are making our own decisions. We can't be sitting in a student parliament and not accommodate the use of the student. We can't be sitting in a youth parliament accommodating the youth. Because equally there's nothing about us without us. Noted like that. We must contribute to the NEC there.
Thanks very much. The third one?
Thank you, Chief. Can I speak like this? Sorry. I would just quickly like to... Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I would just quickly like to go back to something that Honourable said regarding the youth strategy. First, I recommend that if we can, after this meeting, arrange a solid time to you on the youth strategy. 27th of 2020, Mercury Basin that was formed, and nothing has happened yet. In the that a lot of groups help and develop a complete plan us to after 2 years on a strategy. Perhaps just ask also assist at time for the next. Thank you.
Last one?
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, mine is the problem of the way this document is being drafted. I had a privilege previously to be part and parcel over that young people have issued at the youth parliament. And I can outline in this document more than 5 issues that were raised from the Democratic Alliance
Thanks very much. Questions are crystal clear. I'm not sure who's starting first. Honorable Brown, Honorable Magalo.
No, thanks, Chair. I think the first was that there was a dissatisfaction of the emphasis of our vote from our side. But maybe the honorable member can rest assured that the purpose of this session is to allow our efforts. Despite that one may be strong, we feel very strong on one's view, like we do that. I've expressed that we feel very strong on the posture we've taken on the economy. That's our view, but that doesn't stop other members from raising their views. And that emphasis does not cease to exclude or give an impression that it is the only correct one. So, honorable member may not have to feel intimidated by that emphasis. His views and everyone's views are welcome. That's basically the nature of the economy. Economy is like law. Once we can all agree, then one of us has not applied his or her. So we actually welcome those views. the majority of people are in the private sector to start with. So as a statistics. So that is a context within which the whole of government is defined and all the efforts are against us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Honorable Makalo Mahale. Honorable Brown.
Thank you, Chairperson. With the difference between the two questions, the honourable members of the EFF, the Free State bursary, we do have money. The funds that we budgeted for this financial year is 265 million. The issue that we're facing is the issue of administration. So those who are not receiving the payments, please, Mansfield is here. If there is a challenge with regards to ID results, a challenge with regards to ID numbers not registered on the system, whatever it may be, please bring them forward so that we can get matters corrected. Sure, there are funds. It is just maybe ensuring that the are dispersing them and the process is done next week. And then the issue, the other EFF member was the issue of having young people in decision-making process of government. For example, the bill that was presented by the MEC went through a full public participation program, and it's asking on young people to form part of public participation in every district that was any bill, any legislation of any type of paper to come through legislation has to go through public participation. Even your rates and taxes, whatever it may be. So young people, if you're really interested in changes that you want to see, they form part of those participation sessions. And then lastly, to the representative, the honourable member of DA, I think yes, give us a date, resolve between yourselves today, the date that we have to come up with a strategy. And personally, I think both the EDC and the Office of the Premier, staff, the team here, our government, is really keen on having a youth strategy for this process. It's by time, and it needs to integrate and feed into our ideas. It also needs to integrate and feed into the Free State growth and development strategy. So it's important for us to do that by having designated areas that we want. So strategy for women, strategy for youth, the strategy for people living and so on and so forth needs to be the basis of our growth and development. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks very much. We are joined by Honorable Klute, member of the Free State Legislature, and Honorable Madalan Dombela from the National Assembly is one of the House chairs at the National Assembly. The responses, Honorable Speaker, would you like to say something before?
Yes.
But please don't forget I'm the presiding officer today. Okay.
Just as a point of emphasis, we agreed that when part of these platforms, all the sectoral engagements that we have, what we do after we get a task team from the participants, that is going to consolidate the resolutions and be able to take it forward to the executive. But what we did not do, this issue of the youth strategy is coming up now as a proposal. It was not there last time. We're dealing with resolutions which we did and handed them over with follow-ups, of course, to executive. But I think it's a new initiative that the MEC for Finance is proposing to say, you as youth, not necessarily in that task team where we fine-tune and try to deal with resolutions, but it's something that the youth must think about to say how we're going to come together, of course, assisted by the office that deals with youth issues in the office of the Premier, so that, and I think the two MECs that are with us today would be happy to form part of that process of coming up with a strategy for youth that is going to find expression in the strategy of the province. Thank you, Chair.
No, thanks very much. The responses concludes the first session of the program, and the same program dictates that I hand over to the Speaker, Kilebo Tulo, as well as the Deputy Speaker, Thabiso Mabaso. There's another proposal that we go for. I'm not sure, is it breakfast or brunch or... Let's go for breakfast. Time is now 5 to 12. By 20 past 12, we should be seated, honorable members. Delegates, you go this side, pass this side. That's left and right. Simply also forcing further on issues, then it will forever issues of transformation of South Africa. Much. Let's adjourn.
Them is
the bed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
wa utlwisisa. So
La mo ga hle gone seno o lalela koloi tsa mo. We must be at our optimum. But I think I'm already just writing the notes because it's going to be such a long session. It's this folder. No, it's this folder. It's the program. So they're saying it's not answered, it's not bad. It's actually answered by this one over the gap. So we're working with what we have and then choose what is. I'll have the documents in the folder file. Yeah. I also haven't seen him. I need to give him yeah, he was freaking out. I have it.
Kuyibona intathu wakhe. Kifi, oh, kuyibona. No, I'm standing here. Giving it to you here. Yeah. Ikaw pen. So what do you love it? They only have 2 speakers. So what are 2 speakers? It's only internet. To get them inside so that we can start.
Masingenene. Where are other delegates? Also, Bagene Mola. Let's sit down, honorable members. We thought the breakfast time will also be utilized as caucuses. So you can't be holding your caucus during the session. We have started, honorable members. We are proceeding with our second session of the program, which will be chaired by, there's a hand, I'm not sure it's point of order or what. I think, okay.
Good morning, everyone. I am standing on a point of order. The Honourable Speaker of the Free State Legislature has mentioned that they really encourage public participation when it comes to lawmaking and what issues regarding anything of the province. But youth parliament only happens once a year. So, in other words, the legislature does not really care about youth involvement. Laws and decisions impact youth must be discussed with if it does, that the youth are involved going forward. That issue is only raised once a year when you're here in June, but continuously throughout the year. Thank you.
Yeah, very much. I did not want to pull you out of order. Your submission should serve as one point during the day. I think we welcome that. Even if we started, I think those discussions can't be extended. Noted that we, with open hands, open and correct in terms of public participation processes and so on. And this sector is part of entrenching democracy through public participation. I think I have already handed over to you. I'm not sure it's you or the Deputy Speaker, but the stage is set, the platform is yours. Thanks very much during your discussions, not the debate.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Youth Parliament 2022, sitting under the theme Promoting Sustainable Livelihood and Resilience of Young People for a Better Tomorrow. As outlined by the chair, Honourable Member, he has told you my name is Honourable Kilebukhulethulo for today's sitting. I welcome you all in the sitting, and I hope today's sitting is going to inspire us to come with new ideas, not only to outline challenges and struggles that we all know of and we are aware of, but also come with new ideas as to how we can challenge the status quo, but also come with creative new ideas that can also help the government in ensuring that issues of young people are being put forward, issues of young people are addressed as a matter of any urgency. Honourable members, in front of you, you have seen that we have a program. It's a political youth formations. The speakers are outlined from different political parties, and there's also time allocation. There are rules of engagement in this house. If you want to raise a point of order, you can raise your hand. If in any type of order you raise, and you will be noted and will be assisting me to note and check hands if there are any issues. We don't want discussions, honourable members. The decorum of this house must be placed throughout the debates. If there are any issues, the Sergeant of Arms are going to assist us because we want order in this house. And I hope that no one came here with the intention of imitating or emulating things that we are seeing in the National Assembly that are happening there. Those are not good sides at all. They are not only taking us 10 steps backwards, because people are honourable members don't go there, the National Assembly, to discuss issues, but they rather go there and cause anarchy, which is very unguided as well. I have not noted you yet, honourable member. You may take your seat. Yes, you may take your seat, and then I'm going to order you, and then Honourable Member Temso here will take forward. You may raise your hand. You are noted, Honourable Member. I don't think as such that was a point of order, but thank you, Honourable Member there. I don't think in my welcoming remarks I mentioned any political party as such. I just said I hope we're going to maintain the decorum of the House. As such, not having, honourable members doing funny things. The House decorum must be maintained, honourable members, as much as we feel. I don't remember also being emotional, but that is a debate for another day. So I welcome you all to this sitting, honourable members. I would like to call on the first speaker from the Freedom Front Plus, Honourable Van Wyk. Can you please take to the podium? I see a hand. Okay. I see a hand, Honourable.
Yes. Speaker, just in relation to...
Honourable Member, may you please stand up when you address the House? Thank you.
Thanks, Speaker. In relation to the problem that we have the time given to is quite an political party. So I will at least try to at least be on time, districts first, and follow the political parties. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Memela. Okay, wait. You're noted there, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Speaker. I think it's a bit too late now to get another proposal in. As we all said last night, very long, discussing and amending the program of the day. So let's please respect and adhere to that. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members, for your inputs. I was going to make a ruling on that. Comrade Memela, we have actually agreed on the program as of last night, and I don't think it is advisable at this stage to change anything. I think we should move forward with the program as it is. I see a hand, honourable member.
Thank you, Speaker. I thought we had a conclusion that we're not going to address each other as comrade, but as honourable members as the rules as in the House.
I just said honourable Memela. Oh, apologies. Honourable Van Beek, can you please take to the stage? Honourable Van Beek.
Honourable Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, and all members present at this occasion, a very good afternoon to you all. Speaker, I would first and foremost, on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus youth, like to express our deep appreciation and gratitude towards the youth present here today. We do believe that the time has long been ripe for our youth to drive their involvement and participation even further in matters that are in need of desperate change with regards to the youth of the Republic of South Africa. Speaker, it is well known that the Freedom Front Plus have stated and continues to state that we do not participate in these youth celebrations of June. This is our view for the simple reason that we do not believe there is currently anything at all for our youth to celebrate. This is based on a foundation of facts. According to the quarterly labour force survey for the first quarter of 2022, the unemployment rate was 63.9% for those aged to 24 years and 42.1% for those aged 25 to 34 years. But unemployment is not a separate and exclusive stumbling block for our youth's sustainable livelihood and resilience, Honourable Speaker. Unemployment is part of a larger and deeper problem of cycle within our country's society that is filled with barriers for our youth's development. They, among others, include the state of decay with South Africa's education system, a system which is fundamental to our youth's development. According to the Department of Education statistics of 2018, out of the 23,471 public schools, only 20,071 have no laboratories, 18,019 have no libraries, 16,897 have no internet, 239 no electricity, and 37 no sanitation at all. I would like to emphasize this again. According to the Department of Education statistics of 2018, out of 23,471 public schools, 20,071 have no laboratories, 18,019 have no libraries, while 16,897 have no internet, 239 no electricity, and 39 no sanitation at all. Outside and within the education system, Honourable Speaker, we have violence, we have poverty, socio-economic problems, failing municipal services, and overall weak governments. Speaker, we can name a million statistics about the problems and the wrongs of these so-called barriers, but I do believe that we are here today for solutions. Sustainable livelihood, Honourable Speaker, starts at the bottom of society. In other words, on the lowest levels of communities and educational systems. The Freedom Front Plus will continue to strive for a federal form of government, which even more importantly so should be applied to our education system as well as to our communities within those educational districts and areas. This means that the central government's powers must be curbed and handed over to the power of the community, and more particularly to the youth of that community. The Freedom Front Plus, as it has declared in its 2019 manifesto as well, believes in a system of parent and community-driven mother tongue education. Mother tongue education, Honourable Speaker, must never be underestimated and sidelined, as we are currently seeing. We also believe that community councils that prove themselves capable must be given the right to act as education departments across provincial boundaries. The Freedom Front Plus then proposes a system of fair employment, where sole requirements must be based on merit. The federal element, Honourable Speaker, will provide the youth, together with their communities, to take their future into their own hands, without the unnecessary interference of a government riddled with corruption, bankruptcy and incompetence. When we speak about resilience, Honourable Speaker, there is one crucial element that is needed. This element is proper and positive political will. Without this, nothing else can take place. Nothing we discuss here today, no whether programs or any other non-governmental organizations and their policies, nothing can take place without political will. I want to give an example, Honourable Speaker. I do not remember exactly when. I know it was in the National Assembly, where the moment a young member is at the podium and he or she says something out of line, there are utterances made that sounds like this: that young member should keep quiet. That young member must know his or her place. If there is political will, then this is not positive will. That attitude of government on national level reflects what is going on provincial and local levels. An attitude towards the youth that I propose today should never again be tolerated by any young person in this country. Political will, then, Honourable Speaker, is only proper when a proper balance can be struck between that which will benefit the youth ideologically as well as which will benefit them pragmatically. This, I believe, is the crucial test for any statesman or government. It is, however, regretful to my opinion that the current state is clouded only by ideology, an ideology that is hostile and detrimental to economic development, educational development, as well as employment. And it is on these three terrains where the youth is radically excluded, sidelined, and still struggling to find a proper basis. Honourable Speaker, as one of the previous speakers I've already stated, we come from different backgrounds. Therefore, we will have different views. And with different views, we will have different solutions. And we might differ. But I personally believe, and the Freedom Front Plus do believe, that we still, as the youth, have enough common ground and interest in South Africa to make for our youth this country the most loveliest country in the world to live in. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van Wyk. Honourable Van Wyk, and this is the announcement to every honourable member in here. Once you are done with your speech, can you kindly share your speaking notes with Mr. Zondo here for the purposes of record keeping and accountability? So, Honourable Van Wyk, if you may please, and any other member that is going to come and speak, Honourable Van Wyk should do the same. Thank you. Moving to our second speaker from the Economic Freedom Front Plus, Honourable Mukoni, can you please make your way forward? Honourable Mukoni, before you take, I see a hand. Yes, Honourable Member. Honourable Mukoni. Okay.
No, thank you, Chair. My name is Honorable Mahu Sekhri again. I think it's very much important to give you a point of order because there's no EFF plus here. We must be noted as EFF, just like that, not EFF plus.
My apologies, Honorable Member. I thought I said economic freedom fighters. I apologize on that. Honorable Mkoni, the floor is yours.
Yes.
Honorable Mkoni, can you please raise another hand? Honorable Member?